exactly who I am. Now, say my name.
We must pay homage to him.
All right, folks. It is our post-game recap. I don't even know how to open this thing. We just beat Wake Forest like 20 minutes ago.
Well, Dave said to Dave, say my name. Say my name.
Right. My name is Tim Beck. The Wolfpack put up 45 points. It's ridiculous.
270 rushing yards.
I mean, if you're going to get it done, that's how you're going to get it done, right? We've been saying this from the beginning. They have got to run the ball, and they ran the crap out of the ball, and I liked it. There was some sort of coherence with the offense, especially early. Like, I never expected them to click this well. Even before the game, I started thinking, like, none of these offenses that I've watched in the first 2 weeks were really clicking, and they came out and just bam, bam, bam. They just kept scoring on the first 3 drives. When's the first time that's happened against a real school? I have no idea. The
pure advantage of having no tape to not knowing where to look. Right, I thought that was a lot of stuff that when Philip Danford from IPS had posted some cut ups of Beck's offense, and a lot of that stuff was straight out of the Nebraska playbook, which is what I was saying before, is that during Dave Clausen's radio show, he did not mention Nebraska for offenses he was looking at for tape. So,
yeah.
Oh, man. Bailey Hockman, 3 touchdowns, 2 for us, 1 for them. What a game.
All right, so here we go. That's the big controversy before the game. Like 10 minutes before the game, Pac Football puts it out there that Bailey Hockman's your starter. So apparently Larry missed a lot of time with the corona, not because he had it, but of contact tracing. So somebody else had it. You know how it works. And they kept him out, and Bailey just looked better, I guess, in the limited time they had to practice. And Bailey came out and looked good. 12 for 12 early, led the drives. I mean, what do you think of Bailey Hockman's performance?
I thought it was as good as you can get from Bailey Hockman. And in fact, I thought it was actually better than normal, because he, even on some of his dangerous throws, for the most part, he was throwing them away or was hitting, a running back or, some kind of safety release valve for him. I just think the problem with Bailey is just that he stares down that first read for so long, and he's really got to work on that. But all things considered, he probably didn't think he was going to be the starter in reality, right? And then 20 days ago, that or more, that changed. He ran with heart, which I will say he took some nasty licks out there, and he was rewarded. He averaged 3.8 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown, and he was pretty clutch. He converted a couple third downs, I think, with those runs. So yeah, I think that's probably the best you'll get from Bailey. But we also saw some of the worst too.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Like, before that game, when that announcement came out, everybody was just like doomsday. Like, here we go. Because we saw what Bailey Hockman could give you last year in limited time, right? He has 1 TD, 4 interceptions, and just looked confused. And I sent the message to somebody earlier, and I said, when that happened, I said, we're going to have to run for 300 yards to win this game. And we ran for 270 yards, right? I mean, they had to take the pressure off of him. And it's going to be like that with any of the quarterbacks, right? You just want somebody who's not going to lose the game. And they did. They did a good job of taking the pressure off of him. They put him in situations where, for the most part, he could handle. And he looked infinitely better than last year. Now, he had a couple of those throws where he was kind of rolling out and maybe threw off his back foot, and he completed them. But I wouldn't bank on completing those. And so there's still some of that in there that you really don't want to see from your quarterback. You'd rather than throw it away, but it worked out today, and he looked good, and he looked good enough, I should say. right? He obviously had the mistake where they come out throwing for some reason. I don't understand. There were certain points in this game where, we were in our chat and we are talking like, what are you doing? Like, why would you come out at that point in the game when he threw the pick six, you have 14-point lead, you're about to go up 21 on them because they can't stop you. And your offense changes a little bit from, running the ball to trying to throw it, right? A couple of those times they came out and throw it 3 downs in a row and just didn't do anything. And one of those times he threw a pick six. He was a little late on the throw, and Cheeseman didn't help him out at all.
Yeah, Provolone
guy
twist.
jumped it. Yeah. The white guy jumped it and took it to the house, and you're like, there's the the Bailey that we saw last year. Like we can't use that. We can't have that this year, right?
Yeah, it was. First off, it was a really good play by the Wake player. I can't remember if his name was Jasir or something like that, but they had talked about he was actually a safety who was playing cornerback last game, and then the cornerbacks finally came back this game so he could move back to safety in his natural spot. He's a guy that I know Wake's really high on, so I mean, it was a hell of a play. It wasn't a horrible ball. It's just the timing's not there. You can't just like run when they expect you to run too. They probably saw some looks and they thought they were going to attack it. And, if you hit that play, you get a big chunk and you get back on the positive side of the field. And then you probably have the person show again. A few people were posting on the boards after the game, like, if Leary's ready, what do you do? Do you start Hockman? And I would say if Leary's ready, you start Leary.
So let's save that for later in the week because that could be another long discussion. Right? I want to look at this game and what did they do well? Right, obviously they ran the ball well. They basically had 200-yard backs. I think Person had 99 and Knight had 97 on 12 and 11 carries. That's serious production from those guys.
And almost all of those were on the left side of the line, which is what we thought, right? About Riley, Icky, and Gibson holding up the anchor there. Dude, it was so nice to watch us running like that. It was so nice.
Ricky Person, hats off to him. He looked fantastic running the ball. He looked faster than I remember. He was amped. You could tell he was amped to play, man. And he looked really, really good. I'm blown away by how good Ricky Person looked.
We will win a lot of games if he and Zonovic or Knight are averaging over 7 yards a carry. Like, that's a good.
Yeah, if those guys can stay healthy, that bodes well for us, man. You really like that combo.
Oh, they set up really well, and I could see Jordan Houston too. I don't know if I want to go back and look at the Houston runs. Like, some of his were just so great, but then at other times it kind of felt like they were just signaling what was going on to Wake, and they just keyed in on 2 or 3 of those drives with Houston back there. I didn't really like how we were trying to clock the game at the end with him. Maybe they're more comfortable with him as a bailout. I don't know.
There was a couple series in there where they looked like they rotated in with some of the depth guys on the line, and then Houston, and you could tell the production wasn't the same. And then particularly at the end of the game, I'm kind of surprised. It was like 4 minutes left, right? You have the ball, and you basically need to kill some clock, and you put Houston in there and just. You don't really get anywhere, right? I don't understand why they didn't put one of the horses in there. That was really maybe the most questionable series of the game. There was a couple series that I didn't like, but that one right there, I just didn't understand what they were trying to do. Like, if you're just going to run it basically between the tackles, why not put one of the better running backs in, one of the bigger running backs in at least, right? To, maybe push some yards.
Was it just me, or were they dedicating series to each back basically?
It seemed like there was a rotation, but at some point you got to, at the end of the game like that, you got to be situational, right?
Yeah.
I would think.
It would be great to get some. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it would be great to get some defensive stats from this game, I mean, Peyton Wilson, I mean, he had to have at least, it felt like 15 tackles and 1 body slam.
Yeah, I mean, the officiating in this game was horrendous. I feel like a broken record because I feel like we always say this, but the league officials are just absolute garbage. The first fumble that they missed, I mean, this game shouldn't have been that close early on. They should have been demoralized out of this game for the most part. It would have been a 14-point swing there. They got that fumble that they should have never gotten. It was clearly a fumble.
Did we get explanation? Did they call like he was held up? What I was like, forward progress? Like, it was such an obvious fumble. The tape made it clear.
I don't think they reviewed it. Somebody on Twitter told me that they did not review it. And so that would make more sense not that they didn't review it, but that they didn't review it. So that's why they didn't overturn it. But it wasn't reviewed. That was Doran calling a timeout.
Oh, really? So he tried to force their hand and they still were like, nah, we're good.
I mean, again, I don't understand that. There were several holding plays in the back they missed. I mean, there was just the taunting on Ricky Person. Like, what the hell was that about? I don't know.
It's like you're going to call that, but like, have they changed the rule? You remember how they said a thing like where if you were like holding up the number 1 while like running into the end zone, it was going to be a taunting penalty. Yeah. This was a big deal like 5 years ago, right? And then the Wake running back with like the giddy up stallion leap. Like I was just sitting there, I was like, wait, so we got one for like the most basic of celebrations. It does. I just don't understand official. Like, was it their first game too? Like,
I guess, but there's no excuse for inconsistency. That is seriously the only thing I asked for is consistency, and they were not consistent at all. We can berate that another time. I was super frustrated with that. I mean, that the game shouldn't have been that close early on. I'll give Wake credit. They hung around. That offense is just so annoying. It's just miserable to watch. I mean, everybody, I don't know how you defend it, right? Some football guy can probably tell us better how you defend it other than maybe being more disciplined.
Well, Clemson basically stuffs the A gaps and just slams into them and basically ruins the mesh point. That's the Clemson way.
Having bigger, stronger guys, that's probably usually the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever heard of Clemson's recruiting? They're kind of good.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm scrolling through this box score while we're chit-chatting here. I wanted to see the totals. Drake Thomas led with tackles.
Did he really?
He had 12. Ashford and Wilson had 10. Dude, that Ashford kid. I will say this, like towards the end of the game, like when they started getting tired, you saw a little bit more of the arm tackles, but I was really impressed, at least with the tackling early on. I thought we were going to look really rusty. I thought the issue was like we just couldn't get the pass rush. And then at the end of the game, shockingly, the defensive line all of a sudden came alive. I think we got out of it pretty healthy. I'm trying to remember who went down on the sideline with that nasty breakup with Green.
Tayshaun Smith.
Did he ever come back?
I don't know. He looked pretty hurt.
He looked like he had jammed his wrist, is what it looked like to me. Oh man, I was telling this before we recorded, but during the second to last series, like my body temperature was at least 5 degrees high. It's still hot right now. I'm trying to drink a whiskey to cool down, actually. And I like turned to my girlfriend and I was just like, we gotta watch Downton Abbey. Like, I can't keep watching this. My heart's about to I'm about to flatline. I can't have us go up by this score and then, get salted down the field with a stupid mesh. And then I saw everyone celebrating the 4th and 5 stop, and I thought, oh, here we go, we're gonna clock and win. And then there was like 3.5 left, and I was just like, oh god, this is the most state thing that's about to happen. But
I didn't really like the conservative nature of that. We already talked about that, but I didn't like the conservative nature of that series there.
Yeah,
that was a little.
I think that pick six just scared. I mean, that just scared the staff, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I guess, they were really doing everything they can to not let Hockman throw towards the end of that game. And, I don't blame him, but yeah, I don't know.
They did a good job setting up that it wasn't really a screen, but like that leak running back where they throw backwards to Emezi. They basically ran that play and then they flipped it and ran it the other way. And then he just turned and threw right. That was like a 20 or 30 yard gain right there. And that's, I guess we'll save it for later in the week, but that's the kind of thing that I think you can only run a few times if you don't have a dynamic quarterback.
Yeah. We talked about what it means to have a good offensive coordinator and experienced offensive coordinator previously. And I think you saw that in some of those plays where it worked and they went right back to it, right? That's something I really like to see.
Yeah.
Just, keep going until they stop it, right? And then you switch up. And, that helps you set up other plays. And I think, Beck did a good job there. And there was probably some opportunity, if that game had broken a little bit differently, that they would have, thrown a double pass or set some of those up with, just how they were using the offense. But who is our leading receiver tonight?
Yards or receptions?
Yards.
It was Kerry Angeline and Angeline. Devin Carter had the most receptions. Thayer Thomas only one catch, but 17 yards. It was a nice catch. I will say I guess the only thing I could think coming away from this game was like, oh man, like if Leary was supposed to be the starter and we look this competent, we've got at least one more win in us. Is what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just feel so good. We haven't won in so long.
I know. I really like it. It's been a while. It's been many, many months since we've won. I really like beating Wake Forest. I really like beating Wake Forest. I like how they used the tight ends. Parham and nice catch in the middle. They got him in the seam. And part of that's being able to run, I think. Being able to run and get those guys open opens a lot of things up. And
yeah. That's straight out of that Nebraska playbook. And they also ran that at Texas.
Right. Yeah.
That's something you're going to see throughout the year. It was as soon as the F came in, I was like, here we go. I was like, they're going to set it up. They're going to block them off on one side and then they're going to fake it and then run up the middle. And it worked.
Yeah. They threw it to the F. With the F, they threw it to them.
I got to say, I mean, I don't know if it seemed like a really diverse playbook tonight. I guess I'm really impressed that they could do that much given all of the start-stop this offseason. It makes you wonder, like, wow, what could this team be like if it has a full playbook?
Well, the team's only going to go so far because the defense looked like a sieve.
I'm not worried.
So,
no, I
mean, nobody's going to play that unique offense. So that's part of it. But
first game, tempo. I thought we were going to be burned out. They credit to them. They made some great plays on those conversions where a lot of times like our guys were basically in as good of a position as you could be without picking the ball off. And credit to them. They made the plays. I think if the team looks this good in its first game, and I'm talking about how they're tackling, just how they're getting after it, I'm not as worried. I guess the only thing I didn't like was just how hard it was for at times Aleem McNeil is eating up 3 blockers.
Oh my God, that was insane.
And we still couldn't get that. Now, part of that's because of the mesh and they were bouncing in and out. So I don't know what that looks like against other teams, but I thought it was great, and Peyton Wilson, I love how the attitude he plays with, but he's got to be like just a smidge smarter.
That suplex penalty was BS. That guy was still running.
He was still running, but they've like outlawed that play. Like,
I know.
and you see it every year. Someone does it, and it's great. It is awesome when a state player does it to Wake Forest because of Nate Irving making it popular and almost killing somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, you don't like seeing 42 points, but all things considered, I thought Wake was going to hang a shit ton of points on us. The more I thought about it after our last recording. So, like, we'll see. I mean, Virginia Tech's also a pretty unique team as well. So it'll be good if we can we get like a Virginia Tech person on to talk about whatever we should expect from them and their 12 running backs?
Yeah, we were supposed to. We'll have that set up. Actually, I need to reach out to them. Yeah, I mean, the coverage looked better for the most part. They're still soft in the middle, but if you're looking at the corners, they were not getting beat.
Yeah.
Well, I actually saw them turn around, maybe look for the ball a few times.
Oh God, that was crazy.
Dunlap hit one. The very first pass play, the guy turns around and like makes a PBU, and you're like, yes, this is amazing. Dunlap actually got hit in the back of the head with a ball, but the rest of them, I don't hate it, right? If we're going to play that aggressive, if you're going to basically be West Virginia's defense, they were never a shutdown defense. They're predicated on getting pressure and getting turnovers. So they need to, get those turnovers and get that pressure. They weren't great with the pressure early on, but I'm not sure if that was feeling out the mesh or, Wake Forest has a lot of quick throws. So there's probably some of that in it too.
Yeah. I mean, they let up basically 2 or maybe 3 long pass plays, and the longest was 27 yards and the second was 23. Wake only had 236 yards receiving, and Roberson and Morin, they were the guys to be worried about. And they had 10 catches and over half the yards basically for Wake Forest. So I guess I kept worrying about a backbreaking touchdown, and it never came. And kudos to the team, like they didn't fold. I'm fine with this performance. I'm sure Gibson will light into them, but they were also missing some people too.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could have been worse. I hope Ingles okay. He went down hurt.
I thought he was back in on the kickoff return later in the game.
He was, and then he went out, and he was in street clothes. So I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah, he didn't come back in after that. Jakeem Harris played all right. Yeah, I get it. They need to get some more pressure. I think that was pretty apparent. And at the end of the game, when Wake Forest had to throw it, that's what they did. They got pressure, and Wake Forest couldn't really throw it. You knew it was coming. They weren't going to run that mesh, and the Pack was able to sit back and kind of tee off on them. They got a couple sacks, and made Wake throw it all over the place. But they gave up some of those long 3rd and 4th down conversions, which were kind of frustrating. But I don't expect them to be sharp, given that they haven't really practiced that much. So what we got out of them, I was really happy about right now. Like I'm happy we got the W. I'm happy we scored a lot of points. I'm happy that they were able to make plays when they needed to towards the end of the game, and the defense looked better in the second half. They weren't so porous.
I think in general we looked like a team that had more healthy players than they did. I mean, I don't want to take away from what we did, but their secondary was pretty depleted. But they have a good front 7. We highlighted that on last pod. And I think as the game wore on, all of our offensive players, except for Leary, were in there just cranking it out. I think that was just a factor. I thought conditioning was going to be an issue for us, but, we came out on top.
Yeah, they showed a lot of potential. I'm overall pretty happy with, we could nitpick it all we want, and we will later in the week. But, right now I'm enjoying it because we beat Wake Forest and they ran the ball. They looked coherent. That's what we said in the last podcast, man, is don't look like a mess, like a hot mess. Like that West Virginia game, they looked like a hot mess last year. And don't do that this year. And they didn't. Right, this first game where they had all the reasons in the world to look disjointed, and they really didn't. There wasn't pre-snap penalties. There wasn't guys misaligned. There was just it was a pretty clean game, and I think that is remarkable. And even one of the announcers in the post game said something along those lines. There was no reason for them to, look as well coached as they did with the new staff and everything that's happened. Shutting down for 2 weeks. All these things that people could have used as an excuse, and I fully expected them to have an impact on them, but they looked a whole lot better. I mean, they looked a whole lot better. Yeah.
When we beat Duke and UNC, we are getting Big Four rings, right?
Oh, I'm going to print one myself if I have to.
I'm getting a 3D printer just for it.
Somebody out there has got 3D printer. Let's plan on this because I want to send one to Dave Clawson too.
Oh, I'll send it to the mail. You know what? I'll give it to my stepbrother. We didn't text at all during this whole thing, so I'll write to him because his dad's a huge booster for Wake, and
nice.
I'll get it hand delivered.
Yeah, so we'll have a pod later in the week. We had a chat during this game I thought was really good. If anybody else is interested in joining us, shoot me a DM. There's a form somewhere on my profile that will send you an invite. But it felt good. It was good there rather than just being on Twitter and ripping. I think everybody had a good time. So we'll probably do that again next time.
Yes. In particular, I think the one thing that was great that came out of this, Evan, was the Spurtle. And
Spurtles for everybody.
I swear to God, I am going to buy a cardboard cutout and ask them just to put the Spurtle on it. And
that'd be amazing.
See if GoPack will allow it. I'll see if Debbie can push it for me.
I'm waiting for Mahesh to send us the picture of his Spurtle. He said if we win this game, he's buying a Spurtle, and we won. So Mahesh, I'm waiting for this selfie with this Spurtle.
It's either that or we should have challenged someone to buy the water pick combination flosser and toothbrush.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. I am disappointed in pretty much everybody in Wolfpack Nation for not getting a cutout of the big fat guy waving the towel, Jake Jams. That would have been an amazing cutout. I think we need to make that happen. I don't know if it's too late. Can we make that happen?
I'm sure it was a joke, but someone they tweeted.
I'm serious.
Someone tweeted the GIF of him doing it, and someone said you'll probably feel old knowing that Jake Jam's son is now a freshman at NC State.
That's quality.
And then it said he sealed the deal that night.
That's amazing. All right, I'm going to bed. It is late. Pack wins. I'm happy. You should be happy. We scored a lot of points. We ran a lot of yards. We didn't do many stupid things. A few stupid things. Not many stupid things. Yeah.
I'll take that kind of effort every freaking game. I don't care if we go 1-10 now, or I guess 2-10, or whatever.
I wouldn't go that far. Let's keep winning. I like winning. I was gonna buy my playoff tickets after we were up 21-7. I was like, yeah, we're going all the way.
Well, we should give a quick recap. Did the rest of the ACC do anything? Was at least the Miami Louisville game?
Miami trucked Louisville. Trucked them. Yeah, it wasn't even close that whole game. I was watching that score. Notre Dame trucked South Florida. Duke lost to Boston College.
Like pretty big, right?
Yeah, pretty. It was like 30-7 or something like that. 27-3 or something weird. Georgia Tech lost to UCF. Georgia Tech looked all right, actually.
UCF looked awesome.
UCF looked pretty good. Georgia Tech, they didn't look stupid, right? I still kind of expect them to be triple option stupid bad, but they looked all right. I was they made some mistakes. Like, whatever. That quarterback's going to make some mistakes. He's a freshman, but they didn't look bad, man. I'll give it to them.
Yeah.
And Carolina couldn't play their game, and
I
think that's it.
Pittsburgh held serve against Syracuse. I gotta say, I guess I didn't. You probably tuned out of that Syracuse game when I tuned in. So
Oh, it was so
I
boring.
didn't realize how boring it was until you texted me, and then I was like, oh god, you're right. This is really boring.
It was like 13-10 or something early on, and it's just, nobody was going anywhere, and I'm just like, I'm falling asleep. And then James texted me, and that was afterwards. He said, "Cut safe" after Duke lost. But yeah, that Pittsburgh Syracuse game was boring as hell. Pittsburgh ended up winning in the end, but Syracuse is bad.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I think again, it's just another week, but you keep seeing these teams that don't really scare you, right? Like Cuse, Duke.
I'm telling you. Yep.
Yep. Probably Miami is going to be a problem for us. But even Pitt, like 21 points against a like bad Syracuse team.
Yeah.
I like our chances.
I love it. I'm going to bed on that note. Wolfpack W. Will's drinking. We're happy. Things are going the right way. We're going to win all our games. We're going to play Clemson in the playoffs. You heard it here first.
Wow. In the playoffs.
Bye, folks.
Well, not the championship game, the playoffs.
The playoffs. I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm going to bed after that. All right, folks. We'll talk to you again later in the week. Thanks for listening. Go back.
Go back.